I honestly didn't know that they made this good of budget gaming monitors brand new on Amazon at this low of a price point. Ladies and gentlemen, for you super budget gamers, this is the budget gaming monitor review video to watch. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Zach's Tech Turf. If you haven't heard me say this already, I've been streaming over on twitch.tv/Zach's Tech Turf every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so make sure you go check that out with us. But before that, today we have yet another budget gaming monitor review video. And if you're new here and you want to see other budget monitor review videos just like this one, then hit the subscribe button down below and also that notification bell. That way you never miss an episode. But yeah, let's check this thing out after a word from today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by GVGMall, an online key reseller with our favorite Windows 10 Pro keys. If you're looking to remove that nasty Windows 10 unactivated watermark on your latest gaming PC, head on down to the links in the description. Here you'll find a Windows 10 Pro OEM key for under 17 bucks, but we want it cheaper than that. Select buy now and enter the discount code ZTT18 for an exclusive 18% off discount, which drops the price down to just 13 bucks. Go through the rest of the purchasing options. I'd recommend PayPal, and within a minute or so, you'll get your Windows 10 Pro key. Now on your PC, click Start and type in Activation and press Enter. Choose Change Product Key, paste in your new key, and bang, Windows 10 is now activated. This is my personal way of activating my PCs. Check out my purchased order history here, so grab a Windows 10 key for yourself with the link in the description using discount code ZTT18. Alright, so this here is the Sceptre E205W 1603R, an awful name to say out loud, so I'm not going to continue to do so. Just like always, we'll start the review off with the specs, and this monitor is rocking a modest 20-inch 1600 by 900 75Hz panel with a 5 millisecond gray to gray response time. And just like that, we gotta cut back to some A-roll so I can explain some things. Nope, this is not a 1080p monitor. I'm just as surprised as you are that I'm reviewing a sub 1080p monitor here in 2020, but hold on, I promise it's worth it. 1600 by 900, for those of you wondering, obviously isn't as good as 1080p, and I definitely want to talk about that more before you click off this video, so let's save the physical tour for last and jump straight into the gaming performance. To basically wrap it up in a quick nutshell, I was honestly blown away by the lack of difference between 1080p and 900p, but you do need to realize that not a lot of people know what 900p native looks like. Everybody knows that when you change a monitor's resolution from something that's not native, it looks terrible, such as dropping a 1080p panel down to 900p. That's nothing new at all, but now that I'm seeing 900p natively on an actual 900p panel, guys, it doesn't look bad at all. Keep in mind that I wouldn't recommend pairing a 900p resolution panel with something like a $1,500 gaming PC, but this very well might be the better option for you if you're rocking one of those insanely budget builds like my $150 gaming PC build guide, which you can check out in the upper right hand corner. Settling down to 900p means your PC doesn't have to output as many pixels, and thus that'll allow you to get not only higher but more stable FPS numbers for barely a decrease in visual quality. Now, the lack of visual quality difference doesn't mean that you're going to see a huge difference in the FPS numbers. It's not like dropping from 1440p to 1080p or anything like that, but yeah, you indeed will get higher FPS in 900p for sure. Also, as a side note, another factor that makes this monitor specifically look pretty decent is that it's only 20 inches big, so the pixel density is actually still pretty high. So aside from trying to sell you budget gamers on 900p, the viewing angles are what I want to talk about next, and this monitor does a surprisingly good job at that too. Looking from the side of this panel doesn't really distort the colors or picture at all. Only when looking from the top does it get super ugly, but hopefully you're never looking at your monitor from this angle anyway. Moving on, there's also built-in speakers, which you guys should know by now that I'm always a fan of, no matter how bad they are, just because I hate when manufacturers don't include them at all, and yeah, these are obviously pretty bad. The volume doesn't get nearly loud enough, but I'm still happy that they included them at all. Finally, in terms of gaming performance, the 75Hz is definitely appreciated, and I think we're starting to see that 60Hz is basically walking out the door. Gaming with that extra 15Hz makes a noticeable difference when gaming. Please don't argue me on that because it's very obvious. It's a 25% increase, which is substantial, and yeah, it's getting harder and harder to vote for a 60Hz panel these days. I always argue for the higher refresh rates in these debates. For example, I'll always take 1080p at 144Hz over 1440p and 60Hz, but I think that concept almost applies to this situation as well. I'm pretty sure that my new vote now would be 900p at 75Hz over 1080p and 60Hz, I think. To wrap things up, we need to talk about the physical tour, and just like all the super budget monitors that I reviewed, this is where it's really lacking in features. The entire body and stand are made of super cheap feeling plastic, especially the stand. It's only rocking a few degrees of tilt adjustment and no other possible adjustments such as height, swivel, or pivot. The bezels on the side are a bit larger than what we're used to seeing here in 2020, but they're honestly not big enough for me to call it ugly just yet. On the back, you'll see that it's basic compatible, which I'd highly recommend taking advantage of. And for ports, we have 2 HDMI ports, 1 VGA, 2 3.5mm audio ports for in and out, and then the power port. Yep, this is one of those dreaded non-standard power cables, which is always a pain because you can't use one of the 27 other power cables that you have, and I absolutely hate the positioning of it as well. Usually on monitors, the data ports are on the right hand side and the power is on the left, then they conform nicely for cable management in the middle, but with this monitor, everything is on the right hand side with no cable management clips or anything. It's gonna be hard to make this look pretty. All of these ports, as you can see, also shoot horizontally outward instead of downward, so it's definitely gonna be pretty difficult to hide these cables. Now going back to the left hand side, we have the OSD buttons, and this is probably the worst setup that a monitor can have. There's 5 total buttons that each do something different, and since they're on the back, you have no visual indication of what they're gonna do unless if you actually go back there. Controlling the limited OSD settings from the front is tough to do until you memorize what the buttons are, and even though this is a super cheap monitor, they really should have at least put the buttons on the bottom with labels of what they do. Once again, the physical tour of these super budget monitor reviews is always the worst part. Companies decide to cut money in the physical tour department, and I'm perfectly okay with that. But speaking of the cut down price, I actually haven't said the price of this monitor yet in this video. It's between $60 and $75 off Amazon, brand new. I was pretty surprised when I saw how nicely 900p looked when gaming, like I rambled on about earlier. The fact that you can get this much enjoyment out of a cheap monitor is awesome for budget gamers. If we look here at the Amazon price tracker, you can see that it hovers around 60 to 70 bucks outside of the ridiculous price that we're currently seeing with these current world events. So yeah, if you're thinking about putting together one of those insanely strict budget full PC gaming setup guides, kind of like how I did in the $200 video up here, then consider giving 900p a shot. I think it's worth the compromise. If you do want to spend a few extra dollars, I would highly recommend checking out my best monitor under $100 video where I reviewed the Acer SB220Q. That's a 1080p and 75Hz panel for around 90 bucks. Before letting you guys know, something that I never do on this channel is give my Discord server a shout out, and that stops today. Our ZTT Discord community is the best community in the TechTuber space, hands down. I'm literally in there all day, every day, so I'm not one of those owners that doesn't use their own Discord server. So head on over there with the link in the description if you want to join us.